what extent were you guys able to scale this business that started with with $5,000 in total
Yes.
funds?
Our first full 12 months in business, we scaled to $350,000 in sales.
Please explain me, like, how were those moments of difficult decision making with your family?
The biggest hurdle for my wife was for me to leave my 27-year career with a phone company.
With Tigrett Outdoors, that you have faced or that you are facing currently by
Yeah.
growing and running the business?
Hiring a crew to ship for me has been a challenge. I cannot repurchase if I have to buy 1,000 units. I can at 200 units or 300 units or 400 units. I was able to negotiate that face to face, and they were very receptive to that.
How many, or how much is expecting Tigrett Outdoors to sell this year?
The last 2 years, we did about 550,000 in revenue, and this year I expect that we'll be in that same range, 550 to 600 in revenue.
Okay.
So,
where do you see your business in 10 years from now?
in 10 years, I would really like to see us with more original products, more products that are original ideas.
Hey, welcome to another episode of the CEO Knows. Today we're having Jacob, who is, I would say, a serial entrepreneur. So thank you, Jacob, for being on the podcast today.
Yeah, Andres, thanks so much for having me. This is exciting.
You have built multiple businesses. I know this Tigrett Outdoors is not the first one. So I would like to know what is the background behind these other ones. Could you please share how your first business started?
Sure. Yeah, of course. When I first heard about e-commerce, I bought a product they sent me the wrong product essentially, and the person told me to keep the product, and that was an Amazon purchase, and I couldn't understand. It was about a $50 or $60 product. Couldn't understand how he could give me that kind of a product just because he made a mistake. So then I started trying to figure out his margins must be pretty decent. So that kind of got the ball rolling for me to think about e-commerce. And then
Okay.
I started a business that was called Jacob's Water Sports. And the reason I started that business was there was a product that I wanted, but I didn't want to pay the price that they were going for in the internet. So I called the manufacturer, asked them if I could buy direct from them. I knew it would be cheaper, and they said no, they only sell to businesses. So I had to have an EIN and a tax ID number. So I figured out what those were and got those and started the business because it was a wakeboard rack that went into a boat to hold wakeboards off the floor of the boat.
Yeah.
So I just called the company Jacob's Water Sports because my name is Jacob and I wanted to do something with water sports and really convince this manufacturer that I was in business. So I contacted them.
Yeah.
And the first question they asked me was, where are you going to sell our products? And I said, eBay and Amazon. It was about 2002. And they said, we don't want our products on eBay or Amazon. You can't sell our products. So I made a list of 10 manufacturers that made not wakeboards, but products having to do with wakeboarding. And the last one on the list was a company called Fly High. I called them, and they said I couldn't sell their new products on Amazon, but they would let me sell their factory second products. So I figured out what the product was, had no clue, didn't use the product, had them send me some samples. And then I launched a website, maxwake.com, maxwake.com. And I began selling products mostly through eBay and Amazon. And they told me that I could sell their factory seconds, but not their new product. So then I went to Skylon, which was the original manufacturer, and I said, I sell for Fly High. Can I sell for you as well? They said, absolutely. No questions asked. So I did eventually get that wakeboard rack, and that was my kind of foray into e-commerce. So then I began selling for Fly High, selling factory seconds, and that's when I learned a valuable lesson for e-commerce, and that is to buy products where everybody else cannot buy products. So you have to buy products from non-traditional sources in order to get higher margins and be more profitable. That was a major lesson in my first e-commerce business.
That you started a e-commerce business back in 2002, right? Is when
That's
you
right.
you started the first one. How was that e-commerce?
To a certain extent, back then we still had GoDaddy, so we didn't have Shopify, but GoDaddy had a user interface that was friendly, so you could set up the website. And I had not started marketing at all, so I wasn't, posting anywhere. I was really, the website was to convince manufacturers that I could sell their product. Then I would go to eBay and Amazon, and then it was a way to answer questions for people that had questions about products. So if they go to eBay, they might search me, find me, and then they could answer questions. So my website was not productive at all. And that wasn't really my goal. It was only costing me back then maybe $20 or $30 a month to maintain the website. It wasn't very expensive, uploading photos. All the photos came from the manufacturers. And I was really just cross-posting things that I had on eBay and Amazon just to feel like I was bigger. But really, Amazon was probably my number one. Revenue was coming from eBay and Amazon.
What were the main struggles that you had to face within this first business, for example, that made you realize this is not going to be the business?
So what I really enjoyed about, I was a wakeboarder, and I
Yeah.
enjoyed, getting out on the water. My wife and I were, married, good income, no kids. We had lots of time in the evenings.
Yeah.
So I was enjoying basically commercializing my hobby. And then my oldest daughter, who's now a sophomore in college, was born. My wife and I had both decided it's time to sell the boat. And I really lost interest in wakeboarding, and really the business began to struggle. It wasn't a $1 million brand by any means, but I saw the business begin to struggle as I lost interest. So I put the business on Craigslist and sold the business name, and the inventory within about 30 days on Craigslist. There was a person who was really in the stage of life that I was in when I started the wakeboard business, who decided he wanted to be in the wakeboard business because he was, that was his hobby, and he wanted a way to fund his hobby. So he came to the house. Everything worked out of my garage. So he came to the house. We totaled up the inventory. He gave me a little bit for the business name and what I'd created. And the main thing was he wanted the contract to buy those factory seconds from the business that I was buying. So there was a lot of margin in the products buying it that way. So I contacted the manufacturer, Fly High, and they said, absolutely, we'll, as long as this guy can make it run on his own merits, as long as he sells a lot of products, he'll keep the contract for being the sole seller of their factory seconds.
Now let's go through the second one. When did you start the second one?
So the second business came from I essentially had I had an interest in tactical shooting. I was in the military, so I love to shoot, love to buy scopes and firearms and that kind of stuff. So the Jacob's Water Sports, I had a few accounts with wholesalers that I could essentially buy and resell just a few tactical gear items on Craigslist. I wasn't doing anything on eBay or Amazon. So I had a friend who we were good friends. We shot together and hung out together, not a ton, but a little bit. He contacted me and said, hey, can I buy a scope from you? And I sold it to him at my cost. I didn't make any money on it. And he said, hey, that's a great price. He tested it out. He loved it. And then the next day after he received it, said, man, I'd like to buy another one, but I want to sell this one. And I just want you to know that I want to sell it. That didn't offend me. So I sold him another one. I didn't charge him really any profit, just covered the sales tax. And he sold it within a couple of days on Craigslist and came back to me and said, man, there's a business idea here. And he was a CEO for a major trucking company. So he had the business knowledge and I had the e-commerce knowledge. And he said, man, let's pull some money together and let's begin making, selling some products, just kind of flipping some products. So the agreement that I made with him, he had a great job. I had a great job. I said, let's not take anything out. Let's roll everything into inventory. That's what I did with Max Wake as well. Instead of pulling money out, let's go for 12 months. And we both put $5,000 in. That included setting up the partnership, LLC, all of our foundational things that we had to do, as well as buying our first set of products. So we had $10,000 that we started with. I'm sorry, that's wrong. It was $2,500 each. So we had $5,000 total that we started with. And we started buying
5,000 total. Okay.
Total, yes. And then we started going to gun shows and selling products at gun shows. And then I found a kind of a niche to buy products where most people didn't buy products, and that was at military surplus stores. We lived close to a military base, so we would go to the military surplus stores. We would buy boots that soldiers sold to the surplus stores, and we would buy, pocket knives and that kind of stuff, just stuff that was pretty low volume. But really, boots were probably the number one thing that we sold. So we would buy them there, sell them on eBay and Amazon, and the profits were really, really good. So we could buy a pair of boots for $20 and sell them for $110 to $120 on eBay and Amazon. They were brand new, but didn't have a box.
Yeah. Why do you think people doesn't go themselves, to these military surplus stores?
That's a great question. So I used to go to the military surplus stores all the time because I lived within about 2 hours of them. Now I've moved to about 4 hours away and I never go to them. So I was close enough to the stores to give people what they wanted in the stores because they weren't close enough to go there themselves.
And for that, people pay a premium of 300 plus.
Well, yeah, so they paid a premium because the retail on the product was quite a bit more than the military surplus stores were.
What extent were you guys able to scale this business that started with with $5,000 in total funds?
Our first full 12 months in business, we scaled to $350,000 in sales.
That's significant.
it was big. It was way bigger than I did in the 4 years that I ran
Yeah.
Maxway. So yeah, that first year, because he had business know-how, he was able to keep up with the books a lot better than I was. So he was able to help me scale, and I was able to teach him Amazon. And then really about 6 months into our first full year, we had about $60,000 in products. Remember, we were just rolling that money in, buying more product, and not taking any profits out. And at the 6-month mark, that was significant because that's when he was about to lose his job as a vice president. They basically said, "We need you to retire, and we need you to do it quickly." So he was not quite where he wanted to retire, but he was ready to go full time, working on it was Tennessee Tactical Supply was the business. So he came to me with a proposal. He said what his salary needed to be, and I said, "I'll begin taking a part-time salary. You begin taking a full-time salary." And we did that for several years, and it worked out great.
For how many years you guys worked together like that?
I'm thinking I should have looked up the date. I think we started in about 2006 and we ran it till about 2011. And the salary that we were taking out was around $7,000 or $8,000 per month. And we started with just a $5,000 invest. So that was a very fun business to scale to the next level.
How would you attribute the success of that specific business? Like, do you think it's having the partner who is keeping up and you managing the business, the inventory itself, or where do you think it was the success behind it?
Yeah, I think there were two key things. Number one was he had skills that I didn't have, and I had skills he didn't have. He had no idea about eBay or Amazon, and I had no idea about really scaling a business and making a business profitable. The other thing that I would contribute to the success was finding that place to buy products where other people were not thinking about buying products. And don't get me wrong, when we went to the surplus store, there would be a lot of buyers in there. We wouldn't go on the weekends when the public was there. We would go, in the middle of the day when he was no longer working. He would go in the middle of the day. I was stuck to weekends because of my job schedule. But then I would also take vacation days and go purchasing with him as well. So I think finding, again, I learned in that first business, finding places that people are not willing to go to get products, or maybe are not educated enough to go. Like someone had to teach me how to, where the surplus stores were, how to negotiate. I actually had a friend that lived close to me that kind of walked me through that process that helped me a lot.
However, for example, you're the creator, you're the guy seeing the market because you have it closer, or you're more sensitive to the market movements, to what the market is needing. So I think that's like applying your time, applying the hours, the work towards these high leverage activities is just much more beneficial than you trying to learn to do to manage the whole accounting, the whole inventory, the whole PPC. Like that would be crazy.
Well, and once I started Tigrett Outdoors, I was working full time with the local telephone company, a national telephone company, and Tigrett Outdoors is a communication brand, and I did communications in the military, in the Tennessee Army National Guard. So I had a good foundation for communications, and then I was a ham radio operator in the U.S. That's basically lets you communicate long distance over wireless communications, and it's around the world as well. But it's very popular in the United States, probably more so than other parts of the world. So that kind of put me in the mode when it was time to start a new business. I was really about 7 years from retiring, and I felt like I needed to have something that would take me into retirement because I started with a telephone company very young, and I didn't want to stay for 40 or 45 years as some of my peers do. So I really wanted to have something to kind of bridge that gap into full retirement. So I started Tigrett Outdoors in 2022, knowing that it was really about 2030 that I could retire. So I really thought I would run a hobby for several years to the point that it could sustain me. And then
because you guys started with a single flagship product. Can you
we did,
please how does that work?
Yes. So just like the wakeboard business, I really found myself looking for a product that wasn't available and then really launching the company because I had an idea that no one had thought of yet. And maybe they had thought of it, but nobody had created it and done it well. So this is the SMC cable. I call it the shoot, move, communicate cable. And essentially what I wanted was a cable that would allow me to connect electronic earmuffs to radios that are common use. This is a Baofeng radio, and this is Walker electronic earmuffs. So if you want to shoot and talk over the radio, you need to be able to hear the radio through the earmuffs, and then you need a way to talk into the radio without having to touch the radio. Those were already available, called push to talks. That's already that's been around for I don't know, 30 or 40 years. That's been push to talks have been the norm for military, for police. But what I wanted was to be able to use this headset because it has a 3.5 auxiliary input.
Okay.
What was lacking in the market is a cable that would connect to the radio, and I'll show you how that works. So, and I looked for this for 5 months, and I finally got tired of looking. So it plugs into the side of the radio.
All right.
And this provides a push to talk button. So when you push this button on the side, it keys up the radio, and then there's a microphone right at the top. You almost can't see it. So when you talk, you key up the button and talk into the microphone. The only thing that I didn't provide was a speaker. I provided a 3.5 millimeter auxiliary output, and then you provide your own speaker. What that allows us to do, so I do provide this cable with the SMC, and then you can plug into electronic earmuffs. So now when you hear the radio, instead of it coming through the speaker, it's coming through the inside speakers of the earmuffs. So I looked for this product, and nobody made it. There were a lot of guys on YouTube that handmade some things at home. I didn't want to do that. And then there were other guys that could take 2 or 3 or 4 different cables and switch them around. The problem with that is it was about $100 cable by the time you plug in different things to make it work. And these cost about $43, and this radio costs about $30. So I didn't want to spend $100. There had to be a better solution. Yeah. So the frustration was nobody made it, and I'm telling you, I looked for 5 months because I was thinking this would be the perfect product to use for my application. So I went to these are made in China. The radio's made in China. So I didn't think that it was viable to go to a U.S. manufacturer. So I was actually in business because, remember I talked about I was ready to consider retiring. So I started going to business school at Liberty University. I had an associate's in computer networking, but I wanted a business degree, not because I wanted a piece of paper to work for somebody else. I wanted the knowledge that my CEO partner had. I wanted to understand
will help you build your business.
That's right. So I was actually in a class called International Business, and it was all about selling products in other countries. It was about manufacturing in other countries. So in that class, while I was looking for this product, I was in that class. And I thought, let me try to reach out to some Chinese manufacturers. And being a serial entrepreneur, I had listened to podcasts, I'd read books. I knew the process. I knew there was a process. I just had to seek it out. So found a Chinese manufacturer that made a very similar cable to this, but they didn't make this exact cable. And told them what I was trying to do. And they sent me some samples. I actually went to 2 different manufacturers, and they both sent me samples. This is the one that I like the best. They sent me 20 samples each. And I was in a group with some tactical shooters that used earmuffs. And this system is available for a much higher price. So there's a company called Peltor, or it's Comtac. Peltor Comtacs. They're about $900 headset, and you can get similar functionality. So, and then there's another company called OpsCore that makes a similar headset to this civilian headset that has a boom mic on it. And those are about $1,200. So I wanted a simpler solution that was, less expensive. So I went to Chinese manufacturers. They both sent me samples, and the one that I like the best is the one I'm holding in my hand, the SMC. And that manufacturer was also much more responsive. So they told me when the manufacturing started, they told me when the item shipped, when to expect the product. The other one, it really took weeks. I would send an email, and they were not very responsive, and they were about 3 weeks behind on sending the sample. So really, this company had everything going for it. So I took those 20 samples. They each sent 20 samples. I sent those to some friends and said, "Hey, what do you think?" And it was unanimous. Everybody said this is the one.
You didn't sell them. Like, your aim was not a business, to start marketing.
Yes, my aim was a business, but I wanted to make sure that I had a good product. I didn't want to launch them right away. I wanted to test it, make sure that it functions. If I needed to make changes, I could. So I sent it to probably about 10 or 12 friends, and they tested it out, told me which one to choose. And then I called this manufacturer back, and I said, let me get 100 units so that I can, put them on Amazon, put them on my website, start selling them. And they said, we're a major manufacturer. We can't do 100. We have to do 1,000. But for you, we'll do 500. So that was a pretty big investment. And talked to my wife, and we decided, let's take the leap. And she had seen me run a couple of businesses that made some money. So she, basically let me, take that leap. And it was a leap. So I did. I got 500 units in, and once I got them in, I didn't have a website. Sold my eBay and my Amazon account to my business partner because he was running things. So I didn't have those either. So I went to Reddit and put a post on Reddit about what I had, showed how it worked. I didn't even make a video. I just showed images, talked through how it worked. Yeah, just images. Within about 4 days, I had over 1,000 comments on that Reddit, and people began private messaging me, and I had a PayPal account. So I would say, send me, money on PayPal. And I did have the business set up. I had the LLC already set up before I started manufacturing. So I did that for about 4 days, and I sold, I don't know, 30 or 40 units. It was a lot. And then one night I woke up at about 4 a.m. just so frustrated from thinking about all these conversations that I had started. And I had built a website before for MaxWake, but it wasn't really functional. You could buy products there, but it wasn't very successful. So I got up at 4 a.m. because I couldn't sleep anyway. By 7 a.m. I had to be to work. So within that 3 hours, I started my Shopify account. I took photos.
Within 3 hours, you created the website?
I created the website. It was a single product Shopify website. And the only product on the website and it's tigrettod.com, the same website it is today. The only product on there was this product. By 9 a.m. that morning, I started posting the link in that Reddit, and I had sales by 9 a.m. And then we were off to the races. We were selling, sold out those first 500 units in about a month and a half, and I had already prepared that was going to happen. So I contacted the manufacturer and said, send me 1,000 units. So they did. They told me that was my minimum anyway. And then that was I think I received the product somewhere around October of 2022. And then I waited to get on Amazon until about March of 23. And that's when things really took off. So I started selling other products as well, but I started selling about 1,000 units of this a month on Amazon. And it was very, very cool.
So for the first month on Amazon, you started getting 1,000 sales.
Not from the first month. It took a while to get some traction, but it was probably within about 3 months on Amazon. We started ramping up to 600, 700, 800 units, and then we got up to 1,000 units a month.
How did that happen if the product didn't even exist yet?
Yeah, let me show you what did exist. There's a product here that was readily available. So this product already existed. This is a push-to-talk shoulder microphone, they call it, that you could put on your shoulder. Yeah, this one is very simple. And this one had a 3.5 auxiliary output. So you could use this and get the same functionality, but it's quite a bit bigger. So I think that's why this product was never created, because it could be fulfilled with this. And this connects to the radio in the same way, and you could run a cable from here up to your earmuffs.
Yeah.
But what I wanted was something that was smaller and that didn't have a speaker built into it. So there was already a market of people using this to meet the same demand. So I didn't have to create a brand new market. I just had to tell them that there was a new way to do the same thing. And it was a fun journey to launch this product. And I really have never had one that was quite as successful as this. We've got another product. Our number one product was really a product improvement on something that was already out there. But this was, and this is 4.6 stars on Amazon still today. It's the number one product, the number one push to talk on all of Amazon across any category. And I think it was because I took the time to make sure that the product was solid and perfect. Did product testing before I launched it.
Yeah.
So we make this now for a lot of different radios. The Baofeng radio, like this one, is the Kenwood K1, but every manufacturer really has their own unique plug that plugs into the radio.
Okay.
But Kenwood K1 covers a lot of, that's the major one. Almost 80% of radios are this connection piece. So we do sell for Yaesu and Motorola and other radios.
How do I manage my excitement, or how do I oversee the demand?
Well, the way that I was managing demand is probably not the way the professionals would tell you. I was doing a lot of products as air freight. So the way the process works for all of my manufacturers, almost all of them, is it takes them 30 days to make the product. And that's basically to put you in the queue for manufacturing. They're usually 30 days away from starting manufacturing the product, getting it ready to ship, packaging and all of that. And then if you want to do sea shipping, it's about 30-day shipping. So I was giving up some of the profit in the beginning by doing air freight because I didn't want to have to forecast 2 months out.
Yeah.
So I was able to forecast about 35 days out by saying, okay, we have this amount of product in stock and this is what we sold last month. So I was forecasting for the next month. And that messed me up some on like Black Friday sales and things that I didn't really expect to accelerate
Yeah.
and sold out, or I had to fluctuate prices, to try to keep inventory in stock. So it has been a learning curve, and I haven't, I'll be honest, that's where I struggle. So if I turned my computer around, you would see racks and racks of boxes of product.
Like for what I say, like hearing your different like entrepreneurial projects, I get to see that you were kind of the guy who saw a gap and built something that works. So most people, this is a kind of product design, product development skill. And
Yeah,
most people, spend a lot of time here. And
sure.
when they launch on the market, most of the times it doesn't even work. And you
Yeah,
have done it multiple times. So
yeah.
can you share how is that possible?
That I bought on Amazon. So the next stage, this is Walker electronic earmuffs, the same ones that I was holding when I developed the SMC cable, is to
Yeah.
mount them to a tactical helmet. So in the United States, this is probably more common here than anywhere else around the world. But mounting your earmuffs to a helmet so you can wear a tactical helmet. So essentially, this bar is what I created, and there was a product that was already out there on the market that had horrible reviews. There were about 5 different people selling this one for walkers, and the problem was it was really loose. I don't know if you can see that.
Yeah, yeah.
So just a lot of wiggle and play. The other thing is this is a speaker that picks up, I'm sorry, a microphone that picks up room noise so that you can hear what's happening in the room. So it amplifies what's happening in the room, and then that speaker cuts off when the bullet is fired so that it protects your hearing. So
Okay.
this covered that up. And I used these myself, but I was so frustrated about that the design flaw and then how loose these things were. So I went to, and these had about 2.7-star reviews, horrible reviews out of 5 on Amazon. So I went
Okay.
to the manufacturer. I found them, manufacturer that made something very similar. And I said, we've got to make some changes here. If you can tighten this up, so this is mine, you can tighten it up so that there's no wiggle. So there is play because it moves here, but the wiggle here has
Yeah,
totally
it's
stopped
gone.
from
Yeah.
vertical. And the way we did that was we have a clamp here that tightens down.
Yeah.
And then there's also a ring here, and I used a different color so you can kind of see what part is mine and what part is not. So the black is mine. The other negative reviews, like I went to all of the manufacturers who made these, and I looked at the 1-star reviews and figured out what do people hate about them. Speaker being covered was one, so I went to the manufacturer. I said, you've got to do a speaker cutout. They said, we can do that. And then I said, you've got to figure out a way to protect these tabs so that they don't get broken off when people slide these rails, these arms on. So
All
this
right.
essentially just pushes over, and you see there's a gap there. So either
Oh,
this
wait,
tab
wait, wait.
would, okay, right there.
Yeah.
Okay, so this tab would break off, and then the Walker tab would also break off. So I went to the manufacturer and I said, we've got to fix the design so that we don't break the walkers and so that we don't break the tab here. So they did. They developed the mold, and I wish that I had paid them to make the mold, but they own the mold. So this is the product that we came up with, and
Okay.
I launched this product really for Amazon, for the Amazon audience. Of course, it's on my website as well. So I launched it to Amazon. We really, and we're still the #1 rated for Walker electronic earmuffs
Amazing.
for mounting them to a helmet, so, to a chest rig or a backpack, and then it allows you to mount your antenna to this. And I did have to have these custom made. They were available in other colors, but not this color, and this is the most common color in the United States. So we provide this pouch, we provide this cable. Neither one were really an original idea. It was people selling them and getting horrible reviews, and the reason was they didn't convert the radios to work with BNC. So the radios,
How you keep innovating and doing this design with purpose, because you're solving a really clear ICP, an ideal client persona, and making, like, for what I'm seeing, you're always figuring out how to help them better. There are
yeah,
already solutions for them, but some of them are crappy solutions, like not high
yeah,
quality. They're not fully
yeah.
satisfied. And this is, I think, there are 3 main things, like you main 3 main frameworks, I will call them, for product development, really useful. So let's just recap. Uh,
Mhm.
One. What was the first one? Like the first one,
An original idea that wasn't already on the market. That's the SMC.
original idea that was not yet on the market.
Yeah.
Okay, that's great one. The
And then the
second
second
one.
one is product improvement. So you take a product that is done, that is a good concept that is done poorly, and you
Mhm.
make it better.
Sometimes the demand is like that. Like there is still so many opportunities, but
Mm.
people not doing. There are so many people not doing the right work that you can just outwork them. You can just beat them on
Mhm.
their own game if you do the things with purpose, or better than them. It's simple. It's not easy to do. Like it's simple to understand, not easy to do. However.
Well, and for me, product development is the easy part. The difficult part is high quality images. So one thing that I learned was I have a photographer that works for me, and the first month that he took professional photos instead of me taking photos with my cell phone, the first month my sales almost doubled because I was explaining the product in a much better way. I never knew that. I just knew that I was tired of taking some, kind of crappy photos, and I paid this guy to do it professional. And now,
Yeah.
when I launch a new product, I call him and say, "Hey, AI makes it a lot better now,
Yeah.
but now I call him and say, "Hey, I've got a new product. When are you available?" So that
That's
that helped a
amazing.
lot as well.
For example, let's talk about PPC or managing your own brand store. If you see, you have three stages, right? You have the clicks, you have the impressions, and you have the impressions, you have the clicks, and then you have the purchase. If your click through rate was 1% and you change it to 2% with a few imagery, it doesn't seem like a crazy change. But from 1% to 2%, you just double
Right.
the amount of people coming into the pipeline. So I guess that kind of could explain why after a month you were able to double sales. That's
Yes.
pretty good. Please explain me, like how were those moments of difficult decision making with your family?
Yeah, so the biggest hurdle for my wife was for me to leave my 27-year career with a phone company. So that took a little more convincing, but she saw me, working, and I started doing live shows this year, and I left in February for my full-time job. So she saw me starting in January. I started doing live shows because I wanted an additional source of revenue. So we're on Whatnot, and she would see me, sell until 11 o'clock, ship before I go to bed because I had to be at work at 7. And then, I'd be up till 2 a.m. shipping products and then go to work at 7. Like, she saw that journey
Yeah.
happening, and she knew that it was time. In fact, she came to me and said, "You can't keep doing this. You have got to leave." So worked it out to leave my company. And then in March, I had an opportunity to go to China and meet manufacturers. And I couldn't have done that if I was still working full time.
Do you think it took you so long to retire your job?
I think it was almost unbelief. Like, I wanted to make sure that it was going to be consistent and that it wasn't like my wife's thing with the SMC cable was she wanted to make sure that I was going to keep selling it. She was, her thought process was, well, once you sell it to 1,000 people, nobody else is going to want it. And I see the big picture of, there's 380 million, 400 million people in the United States, and they all need one. That's my thought process. So she was able to think through the scaling process and then also launching more products and having a more solid foundation. I think that's really what convinced her that it was time to leave.
Okay. Jacob, some other key learnings or challenges that you have faced, more specifically now with Tigrett Outdoors, that you have faced or that you are facing currently by
Yeah.
growing and running the business?
Yeah, I talked about hiring people to do things that I don't have time to do, or that my value is better used in other places, and that's been hiring. So hiring a crew to ship for me has been a challenge. Figuring out tax withholding and all of those kind of things. But then also the personalities. Now it's not just me in the shop. Until recently, we had two guys on the shipping team, working with me every day. So it was navigating those kind of issues, having employers as we grow. And I still work out of my property. So I've got a shop on the property that I work out of. But the next step may be, commercial real estate and figuring out how to expand from there. So yeah, there's growing pains that are a good thing, but also I'm still trying to navigate buying enough product that I don't hold product for a year. That's
Yeah.
been a difficult thing. So all of the manufacturers in China have MOQs, minimum order quantity. So you have to navigate that. And the trip to China, if it did anything, was to shake hands with these manufacturers and say, 1,000 I cannot repurchase if I have to buy 1,000 units. I can at 200 units or 300 units or 400 units. So I was able to negotiate that face to face, and they were very receptive to that. They basically changed their policy to help me become more profitable so that I don't have to hold products so long to sell them. Yes. Yeah, so that's really helped cash flow to be able to launch products. We've got some products that we'll be launching on this Monday and the next 2 Mondays. So for 3 weeks, we're going to have product launches. And being able to launch a small batch and test the market rather than having to be all in, that's helped me a lot.
One comment or one recommendation you would give to the to another CEO, to another person who is now running their business and is just at the same stage as you guys are.
Yeah. I would say build your business in a way that it is a marketable commodity so that you don't have to be in every single aspect of the business. So a business that you can sell at some point and be looking to that point. So my exit strategy would be to get products that are good products that have high sales volume that I don't have to be in every aspect of it. And I'm working towards that. Otherwise, you have a job and you don't have a business that's marketable to sell.
Yeah.
You do, yes. Yeah, my phone goes off all hours because I sell around the world, so I'll have messages through our website. I haven't published a phone number yet. I will do that. That's been on my mind, especially since I went full time. But I get messages all hours of the night through international customers and really just customers up late at night. But yeah, it is managing time for sure. So. And then the other thing is don't be afraid to pay someone to do the things that you don't know how to do. You don't have to learn how to manage every aspect of your business. If marketing is a struggle, then go ahead and hire a marketing team. So I took Amazon up to pretty decent levels in my first few months, but it really, once I hired a professional marketing team, it really took off.
How much is expecting Tigrett Outdoors to sell this year?
The last 2 years we did about 550,000 in revenue, and this year I expect that we'll be in that same range, 550 to 600 in revenue. Okay. So, and it's changed. As I said, the SMC cables, some competitors have come in, so I sell less of those, but we're still the #1 rated on the earmuff brackets and other products that we bring into the picture. So I suspect we'll be somewhere in the $600,000 range as long as we continue on the course that we've been doing this year.
Amazing. And the next one is, where do you see your business in 10 years from now?
In 10 years, I would really like to see us with more original products, more products that are original ideas, which is a lot to expect, but really to have an impact on the markets that we're in, having a bigger impact, I would say.
Thank you, Jacob.
Awesome. Thank you so much. This has been really fun.